Walters is the place to be before and after games at Nationals Park. Be sure to check out their self-poured beer wall that includes options such as the Vienna Lager.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Now the pitch, swing and a ground ball fair inside the first base bag down the line. It's going to hit the side wall and bounce out into straightaway right. So rounding third, Jimenez scores and Kirk is into second with a double. The Blue Jays have scored a run in each of the last 3 innings and lead by the score of 3-0. Michael Soroka back at the bottom of the 6th inning.
Something wrong now with Soroka.
Ruiz is going out there, and now here comes Davey Martinez and Paul Nassar to see what this is all about. See if we can read some lips. But Soroka's covering his mouth with his glove.
We went out there and he said his bicep cramped up on him. So right now, that's exactly what we're treating him. He came in and said he feels good. So we'll see how he feels tomorrow. But I didn't want him throwing another pitch when he said that. So we took him out and they checked his strength and everything. He said he felt pretty good. They said, so we'll see how he feels tomorrow.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Rogers Center in Toronto. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. We on Monday night had the Nats regular season debut of Michael Soroka, who is from Canada. His outing, unfortunately, did not go well and unfortunately ended in a scary way, although it does appear as if things may not be too bad. But the Nats in MLB's young 2025 regular season did fall to 1-3, a 5-2 loss at the Toronto Blue Jays on Monday night in Game 1 of a 3-game series. More on Soroka in moments, but this installment of the Nats Chat podcast is brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to people in the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website, tabletomat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You can call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. You can contact us via X at Nats_chat, also via Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email the show, natschatpodcast@gmail.com, including if you would like to sponsor the program, hit up the man who runs the show, Tim Shovers. Again, that email address, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Michael Soroka, he on Monday night allowed 4 runs in 5 innings. He in the bottom of the 6th left the game off clenching his right fist after making a pitch. Not good. That visual was quite frightening. Obviously indicative of something being wrong with his pitching arm, perhaps even his elbow. But Nats manager Davey Martinez, during his post-game session with Mark and others, said that Soroka left the game due to a right biceps cramp.
You know, the minute you see a pitcher standing him out like that and we have to go out, you always try to be positive, but you always assume the worst, especially when you talk about their own.
Mark, that scene made you think all kinds of thoughts. Hopefully this was just a cramping of the right biceps, but not what the Nats could have used, a serious injury to a member of the starting rotation.
No, absolutely. It was the last thing anybody wanted to see, especially from this guy who has been through a lot over the last few years with all kinds of injuries. And so when you see him, as you described it, the reaction, he spikes a breaking ball, he looks to the dugout, Keibert Ruiz signals to them to come out, and then you see him clenching the fist. And, you put the thoughts through your mind, you think back to other pitchers who've suffered significant injuries and try to decipher body language and things. And the conversation with Davey Martinez and Paul Lessard, their head trainer, was very brief and he walked off. And so, yeah, you do, even as Davey Martinez said, you hope for the best, but you have to assume the worst sometimes in these cases. But the good news, Soroka did say that on that one pitch and not anything prior to that point, he felt his bicep muscle kind of clench up on him. And he knew that was different, not the kind of thing he would normally feel. But in a way, given the injuries he's dealt with in the past, it has allowed him to have a little better sense maybe than some others of what is actually happening, what's serious and what's not, when to speak up, when to try to pitch through something. He knew it wasn't worth it, especially that late in the game, the sixth inning. He probably wasn't going to be in there that much longer anyways, that there was no sense to try to push it any farther. So once he got back to the clubhouse and the trainers and doctors look at him, they run some manual stress tests and things to see how everything responds. The initial report was that everything was fine. They're not looking at an MRI at this point, not needing that based on what they know about it. You know, he said the key here will be how he feels the next day. Can he throw a bullpen session in 2-3 days like he normally would? And if that all goes well, he's not ruling out the possibility of making his next start. So that would be a great sign if that's true. Now, a few steps to go before now and then, and we know these things can look innocuous and turn out to be worse than that. But the initial sense, at least, was that they dodged a bullet here.
So it's never good to see any athlete suffer any kind of injury, but I maintain that one of the worst scenes in all of sports is when a pitcher has something go wrong with his arm, because you see clearly on his face this hopelessness and this extreme worry. You know, it's not like when a guy, say, tears a knee and he's on the ground writhing in pain. In this circumstance, it's you can walk, you can maybe even do other things normally, but you know something's wrong. And if you're a pitcher, right, and there's something going on with your arm, like I said, all kinds of thoughts run through your mind. And it was impossible to watch Soroka clench that fist and not think about these things. And you think about what could be wrong. You think about what he's thinking about in terms of what could be wrong. So good to hear that at least the preliminary word is that the bullet has been dodged. Yeah, the Michael Soroka story, in case you don't know. So he was taken by the Atlanta Braves with the number 28 overall pick in the 2015 MLB draft out of a high school in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Spent his first 6 major league seasons with the Braves, was excellent for Atlanta in 2019, but did not pitch in a single major league game in the 2021 and 2022 regular seasons. He twice tore his right Achilles tendon, the first time in August 2020, the second time in June 2021. It's bad enough to tear an Achilles once. To do so twice, I can't imagine what that does to you mentally. And so, you know, you enter that into the equation too. You know, that had to have been on the mind of Michael Soroka on Monday night.
Right. And at the same time, he dealt with a shoulder injury, and he believes that was connected to the Achilles, that he was compensating for his shoulder, which may have led to him landing the wrong way and rupturing that. And then the second time, that was a freak thing that would happen. So, you know, he goes through all that. He comes back with the White Sox last year, didn't pitch well as a starter. They move him to the bullpen. He had more success there, and now he's a free agent. And the Nats came to him and said, hey, we saw things that we liked out of that time you were in the bullpen. He used it to work on his mechanics, to change some things about the way he pitched, and felt this spring as good as he's ever felt. He said he's throwing the ball harder, 95 miles an hour. He's throwing a 4-seam fastball instead of the 2-seamer. He really, really was encouraged coming into this and really appreciative of the Nationals for being, I believe, the only team that was going to guarantee him a spot in their rotation on opening day. Other teams may have given him a possibility of being a starter, but the Nats said flat out, no, we believe in you as a starter. We're going to give you $9 million and you're going to be in our rotation. And then here in his very first start, for that to happen, look, I know $9 million isn't the biggest outlay in the world for a pitcher, but for this team right now, that's as high as it gets. And if it had all come crashing down in one start, that would have been such a bad look and so unfortunate in so many different ways. We will see how things progress the next few days, but it does appear like we'll be seeing him pitch again here pretty soon. And then it's a matter of him pitching well, because he was okay in this game, not great, awful, but not great. He fell behind a few hitters, gave up 4 runs. He knew that it was all right, but really not his best stuff anyways. And that's even before dealing with the injury issue.
Yeah, the final line for Soroka, 4 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 5 hits, a homer, 3 doubles, and a single, issued a walk, recorded 3 strikeouts. He did throw a lot of strikes. That was good. 83 pitches, but 57 strikes, a mere 26 balls. But he did give up a good bit of hard contact. The average exit velocity off Soroka in this game per StatCast was 92 miles per hour. That's the thing, you go into this game and, I think about this. I'm sure you do too. Like, okay, well, what will we be talking about on the podcast? And I figured, okay, almost certainly one of the lead items will be Michael Soroka, how he did, what to expect from him this season moving forward. And instead, the injury scenario kind of throws everything off. But yeah, this is a big deal, like how he performs and what exactly the Nats have in him. I'd say mixed results at best with him on the mound in this game.
Right. Now, there was some hard contact, like you said. In most cases, it's when he was down in the count. Didn't do it often, but he did have a couple times, I think, both doubles and the home run. I think he was 2-1 or 3-1. One of the doubles was kind of fluky. It was a pitch way up and away to Alejandro Kirk, and he somehow got the far end of the bat on it and hit kind of a cue ball double just down the line, and that brought home one of the runs. The good news was only the one walk, because when he struggled at the end of spring training, there were a bunch of walks. So that he was under control, I think, was a better sign, and the velocity was there. So that was all good. If he doesn't come out with the injury, I think we're talking about it was an okay start, not his best, but not his worst. And you hope that there's better things to come still from him. And there may still be better things to come from him if indeed he is fine physically.
It's interesting with Soroka, too. He's younger than people may think. This is only his age 27 season. So in theory, if the Nats can harness what they view as the quality aspects of Michael Soroka, the guy can still have a major league career. I mean, it's been a wild career for him from a standpoint of so good in 2019, has struggled with injury and ineffectiveness since, but he's still a ways away from even turning 30. So, there still could be a lot of career in front of Michael Soroka. Had this injury been something worse, or if this injury turns out to be something worse, then what? It's funny, Mike Rizzo not long ago was talking up the Nats starting pitching depth, and that's not to say that they don't have any depth, but DJ Herr's on the 60-day injured list. There's, I think, a lot of uncertainty with Shinosuke Ogasawara, who's in the minors. What if Soroka misses a start or two or more? Then what with the rotation?
So for the final 3 innings of this game, that's what's going through my mind before I know the severity of the injury. And I'm kind of starting to figure out, okay, where do they go from here? The situation has changed a lot in the last few weeks. The Hers injury is the number one reason for that. Ogasawara struggles in spring training are also on that list. But the weird quirk to this all is that the guy that you would think would be next in line would be Brad Lord, except they put him in the opening day bullpen, thinking he can help them there. And I remember asking this like the last week or so of spring training, as it became clear they were considering him for this relief role. I said, like, what happens if you think he might be a starter? Like if he would need to start if somebody goes down? And the answer I got was, well, we'd probably send him to AAA and stretch him out and then bring him up when he was ready. So if Soroka had to go on the IL, would they make that move right now? Potentially they would do that, except what's the immediate option? Are you going to put Ogasawara out there against big league hitters? I don't know how that would go. Tyler Stewart, another prospect they got in the trade last summer for Jesse Winker, is somebody that we've had an eye on, but he actually opened the year on the IL in Rochester. So he's out of the mix. Jackson Rutledge is now a full-time reliever. Yohan Adon is a reliever. There really are not those obvious fill-in candidates right now. And so I wonder if they would just say, okay, you know what, Brad Lord, we're going to start you, and you may only be able to give us 3 innings, and then we'll go to the bullpen after that. And we're just going to have to stretch you out at the big league level rather than send him to AAA first. I mean, Andrew Alvarez is another one who's at AAA. He started opening day for them. It's not really the quality of options that they were touting and that we thought they would have just a few weeks ago. And so that's yet another reason why you hope that they are correct here, that Soroka is able to make his next start, because what they would have to choose from after that is not all that appealing, to be honest.
And it's one thing if a guy gets hurt multiple weeks into the regular season, maybe by then you've sort of figured some stuff out in terms of organizational starting pitching depth. When in the first week of games, a guy gets hurt, that's different. You know, you're like really scrambling at that point. You also wonder this too, right? 2 seasons ago, Jake Irvin, pleasant surprise. Last season, Mitchell Parker, pleasant surprise. Who is the Jake Irvin? Who is the Mitchell Parker of this season? Might there be someone who we're not thinking about who ends up being called up to the majors and ends up being the pleasant surprise of 2025?
Well, I would have said Lord and Stewart were my 2 candidates for that. I was assuming they would both be in the AAA rotation to start the year. So, I mean, Lord could still end up being that, and it would be a surprise to some extent, but he's kind of already surprised everyone by making the team coming out of the spring. Stewart is somebody I've wanted to see. They got him from the Mets, big, tall guy. Didn't see a lot of him this spring. And then, as I said, he opened the year on the IL, and they don't, in the minor leagues, have to give a designation of what exactly it is. So I don't know the severity of it with him. We'll have to wait and see there. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, it's not really what you're thinking, you know, guys to get excited about. I don't know that Andrew Alvarez would fit this description. And Harleen Susana starting the year at AA. He's got a ways to go. They're not going to force that issue. But the fact that he is now at AA is maybe a sign that he's a little closer. And if he did do really well there and they were ready to move him up to AAA, I mean, maybe they do that at some point, but it's definitely not the pool of candidates at the higher levels of the minors is not maybe what we thought it would be.
The DJ Hurst injury, I think, was a bigger deal than people realized because there's a domino effect of that with the starting pitching depth that you really start to see when you have the thought exercise that we're in the midst of having. Another name that comes to mind is Cade Cavalli, and this is another instance where him taking so long to come back from this Tommy John surgery that he underwent more than 2 years ago now, March 2023. You know, otherwise, he might be someone who you'd say, okay, well, you go to him, but he's not an option, not now, and maybe not for still a while longer. We'll see.
Swing for the fences this summer and hire Table to Mat for all your nutrition and personal training needs. Being healthy and having fun do not have to be mutually exclusive. Table to Mat specializes in making healthy lifestyles enjoyable and sustainable. Are you experiencing headaches, stomach discomfort, or want to lose weight? Find out how your food choices and exercise impact how you feel physically and mentally. We offer virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. With over a decade working in our fields, we bring experience and passion to help you be the best version of yourself. Check us out at tabletomat.com, calling us at 240-388-2206, or emailing us at laura@tabletomat.com for more info. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 300 programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Now the pitch. Swing and drive by Wood in the air to deep left. Back goes Roden to the warning track. He's at the wall. He has no play. It is gone. Goodbye. Back-to-back home runs for C.J. Abrams and James Wood. And a typical opposite field home run 5 rows deep over the out-of-town scoreboard in left center field. Bang! Zoom goes James Wood. His first home run and RBI of the season. And it's now the Blue Jays 4, the Nationals 2.
Disappointing game for the Nats offense on Monday night. The Nats off doing well offensively over the final 2 games of their series against the Philadelphia Phillies at Nationals Park. Total just 2 runs and 5 hits, worked 3 walks, but went 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. The 5 hits were 2 home runs and 3 singles, and that was the offensive bright spot. 2 more homers for the Nats, who are hitting some homers in this early portion of the regular season. And it's not just what, it is who. The 2 homers came from James Wood and C.J. Abrams. So Wood as the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, 2 for 3 with a solo homer, a single, and a walk. Wood in the top of the first drew a one-out walk. Wood in a Nats 2-run 6 had a one-out opposite field solo homer to left field to cut the Nats deficit to 4-2. And Wood in the top of the 8th, a one-out single up the middle despite having been down in the count at 1.02. And C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 1 for 4 with a solo homer. Abrams in that Nats 2-run 6, one-out solo homer to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 4-1. He and Wood hit homers in back-to-back plate appearances in that inning. As we talked about on the last installment of the podcast, Abrams, Wood, and Dylan Cruz, they in the series against the Phillies combined 4 for 36 with a double, 3 singles, and 3 walks. Not much happening. At least you get homers from Abrams and Wood in this game. We can get to Cruz in a moment. Another rough game for him. But nice to see not just the Nats hit 2 more homers, but who those homers came from.
Sure. And I mean, they needed it because it was not looking real good. No hits through 5 innings against Bowden Francis, who people around the Major League world may not know that much about this guy. He took 2 no-hitters into the 9th inning last year for the Blue Jays before they were broken up. And so here he is flirting with it again. And CJ's home run was 112.7 off the bat, the hardest ball he's ever hit in the big leagues. And it came on a changeup, not on a fastball. That to me was a great sign that he was able to stay back on that, not fall out in front of it, chase it, and really do some significant damage with it. And the irony there is he told us afterwards he was actually using James Wood's bat, that he started using it some this spring. He's still ordered some others that have not arrived yet. He decided to try out James's bat, and obviously it worked in this case. Now, it's not the same bat, same literal bat that James used moments later to hit his home run. He had a different one, but the same model, same type and all that. So there may be something special going on with that bat. So, forget about the torpedo bat of the Yankees that everybody around baseball is talking about. It may just be the James Wood bat that has the magic touch right now.
I want to go back to something you just said, though. Abrams has ordered more of the bats and they haven't come in yet?
That's what he said, that he's placed an order. I don't know exactly how these things work, but whatever it was that he likes, that he's found, it's not available to him at the moment. So maybe the Canadian tariffs are involved. I don't want to get too much into this subject, but I don't know what is holding that up. But yeah, he said he's been using James's bat, and slightly different physiques, these 2 guys. James uses a pretty big bat, but I guess CJ tried it out and kind of likes it.
Yeah, I mean, you're a Major League Baseball team. You should get what you want when you want as quickly as you want it. I mean, that's how that works, right? You and I can go on Amazon tonight and get the thing delivered by tomorrow morning. That's shocking to me that Abrams wants a bunch of bats and doesn't yet have them. Well, okay. Well, we know that Abrams put on muscle during the offseason, so the fact that he had that sky-high exit velocity, I guess, shouldn't shock us. Good for him for homering like that. Good for Wood for homering. Not much else happening with the Nats offensively in this game. And yeah, Dylan Cruz had another rough game. He is the Nats starting right fielder and number 8 batter, went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. So Dylan Cruz over 4 games this regular season, 0 for 15 with 10 strikeouts and a walk. We're only 4 games into this, but are we already at the point, or are we at least nearing the point of Dylan Cruz needing, as Davey Johnson used to say, a mental break, maybe just a day off to clear his head, because he just does not look right at the plate right now?
Well, I would have said so Sunday when he was in that stretch of 8 consecutive strikeouts, and I think 5 of them were on 3 pitches. And I know he struck out a couple times in this game. He also hit a ball extremely well off Francis in the top of the fifth. He crushed the ball to the warning track, almost to the wall in center field straight away. It looked like a good swing, a good solid contact from him that we had not seen yet. And so you don't want to, try to find silver linings and everything and say, well, hey, everything's fine. He still doesn't have a hit yet. But the process and the result and the authority with which he hit that ball, at least, makes me think that maybe he found something there and maybe there is a little carryover from that. I don't think Davey's going to go start giving this guy days off for that kind of reason. I mean, Alex Call hasn't played yet, so you'd like to at some point give him a start. And I don't know, maybe there's a matchup that makes sense coming up here this week. But I think Dylan Cruz is the type who is probably best suited to play his way out of it as opposed to stewing on the bench and trying to search for answers. I think he's such a hard worker that I could see him almost not really being able to take a day off and actually take a break from it, that he'd spend that whole day searching for stuff, working on stuff, and that might be counterproductive in the process.
The strikeouts just really slap you in the face. I mean, in today's day and age, striking out does not have nearly the stigma that it used to have. And, strikeouts really don't bother me that much. But when you strike out to this degree, I mean, 10 strikeouts in 16 plate appearances, that is a stunning percentage in terms of how often you're striking out. And he's not drawing walks either. He's got just the one walk. So, it's 4 games, right? So, we all calm down. We get that. And I think the approach does have to be with Cruz, you continue to play him. But I do remember that with Davey Johnson. He would talk about giving guys a mental break, and it just means you take a day off, like you don't play in a game, and sometimes that can do someone well. But man, really am rooting for Cruz to get going here, or at least just have a game with a couple of hits, a double, a good-looking single, just get on base a few times, and maybe that gets him going. He just has not gotten going to any degree so far.
Even the little blooper, sometimes that's what it takes, and you can kind of start to relax a little bit. And we know that he runs the bases well. So if he can get on and maybe steal a base, get his mind off of the offensive part of it, that could do wonders for him as well. So we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if it happened at some point this week, but I think especially, as I said, because of how well he hit that one ball in this game, that you're not going to want to sit him quite yet.
Do you think when Alex Call does play, we'll see something like James Wood DH and Call play in left field? Or you think it would be like Cruz gets the day off and Call plays in right field? And I guess what I'm getting at is we have seen Josh Bell be the designated hitter in all 4 games so far. And a lot of teams these days use the DH spot not just for one guy, but, to kind of rotate guys in and out. Do you think we'll be seeing any of that this season? Or do you think it's going to be, for the most part, Bell day in, day out as the Nats starting designated hitter?
Yeah, I've been wondering that myself, how this is all going to play out. I think it will probably happen whenever they decide Nathaniel Lowe gets a day off. He's off, then Josh Bell takes over at first base, and now you could use that DH, say, for a James Wood or anybody else who might need a day to stay in the lineup, but, stay off your feet, not have to go through as physically demanding of a game. So my guess is it would be something like that where it happens. If Lowe is still playing, then I would imagine that Call will just start a game and give one of the regular outfielders a day off.
Hey, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation, which is offering another tremendous deal to listeners of the Nats Chat podcast. 4 free windows for every 4 windows that you buy, and you pay nothing until 2027. This offer is good through April 30th, so hurry. Schedule your free estimate at 866-90Nation or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. There's no limit to how much you can save, and if you buy a house full of windows, Window Nation will include a free entry door. Window Nation partners with the top window manufacturers in the nation to build windows to their high-quality specs. Then Window Nation passes the savings on to you. You'll protect your home with some of the best windows that you can buy at a fraction of the price of other brands, and you'll increase the value of your home. 4 free windows for every 4 windows that you buy, and you pay nothing until 2027. The offer is good through April 30th. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about a special offer that Babbel has for Nats Chat podcast listeners.
¿Sabes? Están mejorando. Chaparro ellos están en Florida todavía, pero están mejorando. ¿Sabes? Va a tener un poquito de tiempo, pero yo creo que nos va a ayudar como en un mes.
If you're like me and you want to know what is Davey saying when answering these questions in Spanish, because after all, he is talking about the Washington Nationals, then one option is turning to Babbel, where language no longer has to be the barrier. With over 16 million subscriptions sold, Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting our listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/natschat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Babbel.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
The 1-0 from Salazar. Swinging a ground ball, base hit through the hole in the left field, and the Blue Jays will cash in with a big insurance run. Jimenez scores. It's 5-2 Toronto. Springer with his third RBI of the year. Kirk stops at second.
The Nats bullpen in this 5-2 loss at the Blue Jays on Monday night. It still is the case that the Nats have not had a single game this regular season in which the bullpen has not given up at least one run. Now, in this game, it's not like the bullpen was a disaster, but 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 innings, and the specifics do matter. So you had Lucas Sims tossing 2/3 of a scoreless inning, but he in the bottom of the 6th retired just 1 of the 3 batters he faced. He issued a leadoff hit by pitch, gave up a 1-out double. Colin Poche tossed 1/3 of a scoreless inning, but he in that bottom of the 6th faced 3 batters, got just 1 out. He began his outing by issuing back-to-back 1-out walks to load the bases before recording an out. That bottom of the 6th was something. Eduardo Salazar, 1 run in 1 inning, tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th, but he in the bottom of the 8th allowed a run. He began the bottom of the 8th by giving up 3 consecutive hits in a double and 2 singles. And Brad Lord, he in the bottom of the 8th faced 3 batters, got 3 outs, gave up a single to the first batter he faced to load the bases with no outs, but then got 3 outs over 2 batters. So it's funny, you just look at, the bottom line, 4 Nats relievers, 1 run, 3 innings. Okay, you can certainly live with that. But the specifics were not pretty. And if you watch this game, to me, this was another lackluster outing for this Nats bullpen.
Yeah, and again, these were the so-called B bullpen guys. I suppose you'd call them that at this point. So they weren't going to Finnegan, Ferrer, Lopez, which right now looks like their top 3. The concern for me is probably Poche. Most of all, this is a guy who throws strikes traditionally. He only walked 13 batters in 37 1/3 innings last year with the Rays. He already walked 6 of the first 11 batters he faced this season. I don't know why that's happening, but that cannot continue. Obviously, that's not who he's been before. They got to figure that thing out real quick here because that's a huge problem. They got out of it, but that's still not pretty. Salazar has a nice 1, 2, 3, 7. They bring him back out for the 8th, and that's where he gets into trouble. Maybe better off keeping him to 1 inning, but I can understand why you're down at that point. Just try to, see if you can use him to finish out the game for you. And then Lord, I was encouraged by that. I think he was encouraged by that. The way that his debut went on Sunday, not good, didn't even get an out. So for him to come in and yes, he puts a guy on, now the bases are loaded, but to get out of that without giving up anything has got to be a little bit of a confidence boost for him. But Right now, I'm really more focused on the A bullpen guys. Let's see when they're in a close game, how do Finnegan, Ferrer, and Lopez in particular look.
Way too many walks from these Nats relievers. We're seeing too many hit by pitches by these Nats relievers. And just so few 1, 2, 3 innings, so few clean innings. When Salazar on Monday night threw that perfect bottom of the 7th, you wanted to throw a parade because that has been such a rarity so far this year. A Nats reliever just having a 1, 2, 3 easy breezy kind of an inning. And, you were reminded of, hey, that can happen. It doesn't have to be that every inning is some, stress inducing mess. So perhaps more of that is coming. I'm curious to see, too, do we see more from Davey Martinez this season of using A bullpen guys in games that aren't necessarily featuring the Nats ahead? Because we remember as last season went on with Kyle Finnegan, right? He pitched very infrequently, in large part because the Nats were trailing in a lot of games. And it was like, well, if he's your top reliever or one of your top relievers, shouldn't he be used more? If this bullpen is in fact a problem and the B bullpen, is more like the F bullpen in terms of performance, do you start to lean more on your A guys, your Finnegans, your Lopez's, your Ferrers, even in games in which you're down, perhaps by, a couple of runs?
Well, you hope it doesn't come to that, of course. You hope that the other guys either are effective or that you're in more games and you're not always trailing. I think also early in the season, you have to be careful about that because in a perfect world, if you do start winning and you're playing some more meaningful games later on, you want your top guys to be fresh. So you maybe sacrifice some games early on, but it is a reminder of why even those B bullpen guys, why they are important. Some of the most important relief outings you have are when you're trailing by 1 or 2 runs in the 7th or the 8th inning. If you can put up a 0, you're giving your teammates a chance to come back. If you come in instead and turn a 1 or 2 run deficit into a 3 or 4 run deficit, you've blown that game for your team. It's not a blown save, but you've kind of blown it for your team. And so that's why sometimes the most important outings are not, protecting a 1-run lead, but it's maintaining a 1 or 2 run deficit to at least give your guys a shot at coming back before the game's over.
And Davey Martinez now has used at least 4 relievers in each of the Nats' 4 games, and it's not because starters aren't lasting for that long. I mean, Soroka was not great on Monday night. He still worked into the 6th inning. The Nats are getting good length from starting pitchers, and yet still it's the case that Davey in every game has used at least 4 relievers because the relievers haven't been very good, and so he's had to take guys out who are ineffective out of the bullpen.
Right. It's mid-inning pitching changes. You don't want to have to do that. If you can get 6 from your starter, okay, 7, 8, 9, use 3 relievers and you're good to go. It's the fact that too many of these guys have not been able to give him 3 outs, and he's had to make these mid-inning pitching changes.
So game 2 for the Nats at the Blue Jays, Tuesday night, 7:07. Trevor Williams will be the Nats starting pitcher. Going to be so interesting to see what kind of a season Trevor Williams has. He was, of course, really bad for the Nats in his first season with the team. 2023 was really good for the Nats last season, albeit missed a lot of time due to injury. What do the Nats get out of Trevor Williams this season? I think that's a fascinating question.
It's a huge question mark. He really did take the positives that he showed last year, and it was only 13 starts, but, he continued it after he came back from the injury right at the end of the season, which I think was important, that he was able to show that he could still be that guy again. He was a totally different pitcher last year than the previous year, focusing on everything down in the zone, altering his pitch usage, adding a sweeper to the mix. And when I asked him this spring, do you feel like you can go into this season and be that guy again, or do you have to continue to make adjustments? His attitude was he goes into it with what worked last year, and then you adjust if the results aren't there for you. So he thinks he found a formula that worked, but now the rest of the league has a little better sense of it. And so he's got to go out there and show that he can continue to do that. This is a good hitting lineup that he's facing. It's a ballpark that gives up a lot of home runs. This is a good challenge for him, and I think a good indicator for us of what kind of pitcher they really can expect Trevor Williams to be this year. It doesn't have to be the guy he was last year, but if he's just fine, if he's just okay, this rotation looks a whole lot better than maybe we thought it could be. But that's a lot of ifs And he's at the top of the list because we have nothing to base it off of yet so far in 2025, aside from his spring training outings.
It was incredible. Williams' last regular season only made the 13 starts. His ERA was 2.03. He didn't just have an ERA in the twos. He had an ERA in the low twos. He had an ERA that flirted with being in the ones. That's how effective he was over those 13 starts. Missed nearly 4 months due to a right flexor muscle strain. This installment of the Nats Chat podcast brought to us by Table to Mat, which you can count on for all of your nutrition and personal training needs. Table to Mat offers virtual and in-person nutrition services and personal training to the DMV area. You can email Table to Mat directly through the website tabletomat.com. That's the word table, the number 2, MAT.com. You can call Table to Mat 240-388-2206. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast. And right now, a special treat for you. The voice of the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, Josh Whetzel, with the latest on Rochester.
Sanchez kicks high and fires, swinging a blast deep to left field. Back this one goes. Rode into the fence. You can't forget it. A home run. Dylan Cruz gets the Wings on the scoreboard with his first innovative field home run. It's 3-1 Buffalo. Hi there, Josh Whetzel here in Rochester with an early season Red Wings update. The Wings have gotten a couple of games in so far with a loss on opening day in Buffalo, 6-2, followed by an 8-3 win on Saturday. They then got rained out on Sunday. Now, Friday in the opener, Andrew Alvarez got the opening day nod, and the former Nationals minor league pitcher of the year was very effective. He got a no decision, going 5 innings and allowing just 2 hits and 1 unearned run. The left-hander from California has gained some weight and some velocity from a year ago when he spent about half the season with the Red Wings. His velocity a year ago with his fastball averaged just over 90 miles an hour. On Friday, it was up over 91 miles an hour, and he's gained about 20 to 25 pounds, and accordingly, some velocity with that. So that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. Then the Wings on Saturday, even the record at 1-1 with that rain-shortened 8-inning win. They banged out 11 hits, all singles in that one. Trey Lipscomb had 3 of the hits, including a pair of RBIs and a stolen base. Andre Lara made his AAA debut at only 22 years old on the mound in that game and allowed a first-inning 2-run homer, but those are the only runs he allowed over the course of 4 innings. He surrendered 3 base hits. A couple of other pitchers to maybe mention are 2 converted starters who looked very effective in their initial appearances of the season. On Friday, Yohan Adon went an inning and 2/3 of shutout relief, allowing only 1 hit. And the big news on Adon in that game, his velocity was up. He was touching 98 miles an hour with his fastball in his first appearance of the season. And Jackson Rutledge pitched 2 hitless innings on Saturday and allowed only 1 walk. He struck out 4 and really showcased a very good cut fastball. So it'll be interesting to see how Rutledge looks in this first full season as a relief pitcher. That's an update for now from Rochester. We'll be chatting with you down the road with hopefully a lot of good news on these AAA players. He's not running. The pitch is off speed and a called strike 3. The changeup got Moreno looking, much to his chagrin. Though no runs, 1 hit, the only one Strasburg has given up.